How are you guys? Girls. So thank you very much for coming to the session. I really enjoy seeing a full audience. So after yesterday's session, really, it's a, it's a big joy to see the full audience. Thanks for coming. I see a lot of familiar faces, but for those who don't know me, my name is Vakhtang Satrian, and I'm Asia Communications TSP lead for Microsoft. I'm based in Melbourne. So as I mentioned, we have a lot of conversations with our customers and partners, and video is a very, very frequent topic that pops up into our conversations. Everyone wants to know how to integrate, what to do with the video, how do I handle inside my network, what I do with that. So we thought, where is my clicker? So we thought it would be great to bring video as a topic into our discussion to ignite, hence what we are doing. Some announcements. We're going to run also Voice Interop Masterclass. That's going to be at 5 o'clock, so please join us. Give us feedback, which is very, very important. I'm not telling it right at the end, where you're already excited with everything. I want to make sure you guys give us feedback. We really value that feedback. It's important to help us to adjust all the content that we deliver to you. Some announcements. We have got our great partner, part of ecosystem, Plantronics. I've got some giveaways. So let's keep the questions till the end. We go quickly through the content and let's enjoy the questions. For good questions, we usually will give away you some of the great Plantronics headsets. And if you ask me the question I cannot answer, I'll double the price. Well, there's 4 of them, but I'll figure out how to find it. I'll double it. Anything? No, that's all good. So let's kick in. Great. So let's talk about the standards-based video interop, or in general, standards-based video. Talk about interoperability modeling, and we'll talk about video interoperability server. Now, we've got 1 hour, 15 minutes, and it's going to be a little bit tough for me to go through every step and every possible scenario for standards-based video interoperability. So the aim of this presentation to really give you some kind of a framework to highlight some of the topics you need to think of and bring into discussion when you are talking with your customers, right? So we will give you some of the models we have seen. Most of them, I would say 99% of the cases we come across, they at least fit in one of the models we'll give you. And if you see something which is really out of the ordinary, something that you are come across and you haven't seen here, please come and have a chat with us. We really would like to hear from you. So, standard-based video interop. Let's put some basic kind of terminology to sync up on those. Video teleconferencing unit, VTC. What is it? It is a device that really hangs in some kind of a meeting room, or these days it sometimes sits on a desk. It has a camera, it's a form of TV. If it is in a room, you usually go into that device. The way you activate, you either have some consoles you touch, or you have in most of the cases remote controls, is a TV or 2 TVs on the room and a camera. You select the contact you want to call, or you select the meeting room you want to join. So that's the concept of the video conferencing device, video teleconferencing device. It supports a variety of the standards, H323, SIP, ISDN, number of those. Some of them very legacy, they can't do IP, some of them very advanced, different protocol supports. Link room systems or Surface Hub are not considered VTC devices when we refer to them. And the reason is that's purely from Microsoft perspective, right? So usually why we think in that way, you come to the room not just to watch TV and see someone. You come to the room to collaborate. We're finding our customers are completely redefining the meeting experience. These days, they want to come into the room. They want to start working, collaborating, sharing, working on the documents. So it's a link room system, and Surface Hub we believe it's more than just a TV with a screen behind. So signaling, media, peer session, and conferencing. Let's just kind of, it's more sync up on our understanding. Signaling, it's an information exchange between a client and a server, endpoint and the central control unit. Whatever it is in your world, it's basically the idea that the client, the endpoint, expresses the willingness to the control unit to say, I want to do something, I want to place a call, I want to start sharing, I want to send something. That's what we call a signaling. No different to Microsoft, no different to any other vendors who provide those solutions. The media is basically your payload that goes across the network. Can be video, can be voice, can be sharing, whatever. That's when we refer to media. You kind of use different codecs, you decrypt, encrypt, transcode, whatever you do, you put it into the network and actually it goes. The two kind of communication modalities we assume and support, it's a P2P session, usually we refer to, or a conferencing session. P2P session, it is when user A want to talk to user B, they select each other as a contact, as recipient, they establish connection, and they start sending video streams, voice streams between those two endpoints. That's what we consider P2P session. Conferencing session, it is when it is something is scheduled, more formal, or can be ad hoc, or we usually say when you have got more than 2 people, then it's considered conference. But now, conference could be a conference established, only one person sitting in a conference. It is a conference, but the whole idea that traffic doesn't flow between the endpoints. In case of a conference, traffic flows between endpoint and usually that kind of signaling equipment or server or bridge that actually holds your conferencing environment. You can have 1 person, 2 person, 3 per 4, 5, 10, 200, 300 in a conference, right? So the workloads, some cases you will hear Microsoft referring to those workloads as modalities. They are all the same, modalities or the workloads we call them. It's a voice, video sharing. It's really up to user decide what you want to do. The sharing is a probably important thing, I would say. We need to pay attention in this case because when you talk to your customers, you really need to be very specific what do you mean under sharing. In some cases, in the world of Cisco, in the world of the Polycom, sharing, it's assumed, I come in, I plug my PC, I video stream my desktop. Some people refer to that as a sharing. In the world of Microsoft sharing, we mean a little bit differently. We share our desktop or we share application. That means we stream actually using a different protocol, our desktop, or we actually stream kind of application, but then we take it a little bit further and we can provide users with the ability to control, share each other, give access. Like I can access Mario's desk and I can start typing into his PowerPoint slide that he's doing. That's what we call it collaboration. So you have to be very careful when you are referring to sharing as a definition. Be more specific. When someone tells you, I want to do the sharing, really go back and ask what exactly you want to do during your sharing, right? So codecs, standards-based codecs. It's been a very, very beaten topic, and I still started actually hearing, slowly coming back, the conversations around you do not support standards-based codec, or what standards you support. So I want to start from the bottom one. First of all, real-time video. It is a Microsoft proprietary codec. Yes, we do proprietary codec. It's been available since the days of LCS. And yes, it is very, very old. And yesterday I've seen a gentleman, they are running OCS 2007. That's something that I haven't heard for a long time. Yes, RT video is proprietary codec. It's been supported with LCS 2007, 2007 R2, 2010, 2013, and still supported with Skype for Business. What we have done with 2013 server, we introduced H.264 video codec. And we support RT video in the Skype for Business from backward compatibility perspective, which means if I have a Skype for Business client or even a conference in the Skype for Business, and if I need to get someone from OCS world to join as a federated contact, it can happen to my conference. That means more than likely they're going to be using RT video, so the server needs to support that. So with the Skype for Business server and Link 2013 server, we do not enforce video codecs to be RT video, but it is there to support for backward compatibility. Let's move on. Next kind of a step and standard is a H.264. H.264 as a standard, been ratified, been agreed by the number of vendors, and everyone states that we support H.264 as a standard. Great, we do that. But when you refer to the H.264 as a standard, you have to be specific. You need to take it to the next step, and you need to specifically ask them what exactly you support in the H.264. H.264 standard has a number of extensions, and it has a number of basically modes of operation, number of basically definitions. So what we said, H.264 has AVC, Advanced Video Codec, is the default codec for H.264 standard. So some of the vendors, for example, Polycom supports that. They've taken the AVC as a codec. They've implemented it. Cisco has actually implemented H.264 AVC. Then H.264 SVC, Scalable Video Codec. It is an extension of the AVC, and it has various modes of operation. So we, as a Microsoft, we haven't really broken any rule by taking H.264 SVC UC Mode 1, that's what we exactly implemented with Link 2013 and Skype for Business Server, Skype for Business Client. We support H.264 SVC UC Mode 1 implementation of the H.264 standard. So H.264 standard is big. And then it is up to each vendor to take up and implement various portions of how much of that full standard stack you implement. For example, we do integrate with Polycom natively. Why? Because they have implemented UC Mode 1 as a codec. We can actually talk directly with them. We cannot talk directly with Cisco endpoints. And probably one of the reasons is, apart from all the signaling and all the elements, is they do not support SVC UC Mode 1. And I'll let Cisco guys comment on this. Keep me honest. So we do not support. They will talk to us with the H.264 AVC only. We do not do AVC natively yet. With the VIS, we'll have a look actually what we do. So we have implemented H.264 SVC UC Mode 1. So don't get really into the game of what is a standard, who supports that. It's up to each vendor to implement various portions of the standard. What actually we have done when we've taken H.264 SVC, it really gave us a lot of advantages, and it's completely changed the way Link 2013 actually as a service started operating from the video perspective and started actually running the video inside the conferencing. Everything has changed. First of all, SVC dictates that the conferencing server no longer required to be responsible for transcoding. It no longer requires responsible for changing the resolution. It only can play on the framing level and actually give to endpoints different framing rates they want. It actually now taken the responsibility of transcoding pushed back that responsibility to the clients. And again, this is not something fancy Microsoft wants. That's the H.264 SVC standard defines that if someone needs 720p resolution, you need to tell the endpoint start coding with that resolution, give it. If someone needs now 180p, that the conferencing server will tell the endpoint to start coding additional stream with that resolution, give it to me, and me as a conferencing server will give it back, right? So that responsibility been taken away from the conferencing server and been given to the endpoints, right? Which ultimately have impacted the architecture. You no longer require to have a very powerful standalone conferencing servers. As you know, if you're building the Skype for Business server, you can't have a standalone conferencing server because you don't need to. The conferencing server is not going to be transcoding any sessions. The only thing is just going to probably strip off some frames and give a write streams back to the users, right? So let's have a look how basically that works. When we're talking about a video, there's two things come to mind, the frame rate and resolution, right? So what we have implemented with Microsoft Stack is the temporal scaling mode of operation. That's the capability we have implemented. That's the probably only capability we have implemented of the H.264 stack. That gives you capability to encode different frame rates into one stream. And you can overlay into the basic and enhanced layer those 2 frame rates and send those 2 frame rates as a one video stream. Basically, if someone will ask, I want a 30 frames per second, because in a video, actually the receiver sends a request to sender and tell the sender, I need this kind of frame rate. And then if I basically, my client will send to Mario's client and say, I need 30 frames per second, Mario's client basically will take two kind of frame rates of 15 and 15, encode them into one stream as a basic and enhanced layer, will send it to Mario. Now, it's not necessary kind of that big advantage. Most of this logic works in the point-to-point calls, because it's going to be me and Mario. There's no one else is going to be in that call. I'm just going to tell him I need 30, I'm going to get 30. It really becomes important when you run the conference calls. So that's the capability we have implemented in H.264 SVC, temporal scaling. Similar capability has regarding to the resolution. It's called a spatial scaling, but we haven't implemented, and we'll have a look a little bit later actually what we do when it comes to the resolution. So basically, let's say the laptop joins a conference call and the desktop joins a conference call, and the laptop basically requests from the conference server that I need 30 frames per second. The conference server will notify the desktop saying, I need the 30 frames per second. So remember, I can send 2 frames. More than likely, the desktop will send one stream of 15 and 15 frames. One stream encoded 2 frame rates. And conferencing server will receive and will send that stream back to the laptop. The moment when a tablet joins, what will happen? The tablet, let's say, requests a conferencing server stream of 15 frames per second. That's actually the framing it supports. In this case, the server doesn't need to do anything. It doesn't need to ask the sender to receive something else. It will actually recognize already that the stream that's coming from desktop, it has 2 layers, enhanced 15 and basic. So what it will do, it will strip off the frame of 15 per second, enhanced layer, and will give it back to the tablet one base layer, which will be the stream of 15 per second. This is how basically the conferencing will work. As you can see, the conferencing server doesn't do anything apart from just stripping layers and giving a right frame. That's it. The moment when the mobile joins, and it's a very rare to see 7.5 frames per second, but it can happen. And let's say the mobile will request 7.5 frames per second. The front-end server that's running a conferencing, it will request the desktop give a 7.5. Now, desktop will realize I'm already sending a stream with 2 frames encoded. I can't encode a 3rd stream. It will actually establish a next stream which will have 2 encoded frames of 7.5 and 7.5. It will come to the front-end server. The front-end server will strip off enhanced layer of 7.5, and it will give a base layer back to the device, to the mobile. Basically, this is how the front-end server that's holding conferencing MCU, no need to do any processing. It's just stripping off and rerouting the streams. The moment when you will have a laptop disappearing, jumping off the conference, the front-end server will realize that I have got only 15 frames per second request and 7.5. The conferencing server will send a message to the desktop saying, stop sending me 30 frames per second because I can handle 15 and 7.5 using your existing 15 frames per second stream. Okay? So that's what the multi-stream capability of the temporal scaling comes deployed with H.264. That's the only thing we have actually, we implemented. Now, when it comes to resolution, similar capability in a H.264 standard, similar to that temporal scalability, exists with the resolution, but we haven't implemented it. So what we are doing in this case, every client will request very specific resolution to conferencing server, and conferencing server will request back the encoding to be conducted on the endpoint on a PC. The conferencing server will request back to the desktop asking, I need 720p stream, I need 360p, I need 180p, because I have no idea to encode them and transcode them. So the device then needs to decide, first of all, can I do this because I may be busy processing different things, browsing internet, running YouTube, or some rogue USB device connecting and chewing a lot of CPU cycles, right? So it's not the fact is the conferencing server will ask your device saying, give me all the streams, and device immediately start pumping. No, the first number is it's a device readiness to start actually generating those streams. And the second is then device have to figure out, is my call admission control allows me? Am I allowed to send so much bandwidth actually across the network? So this is where it is very, very important to have a very good understanding of, first of all, a consumption, how this is going to be consumed, how people are going to be, what kind of devices are going to have, are they going to have all HD, what kind of resolution I want to achieve. Also understand how your network is ready to cope with that. And what I have seen in a lot of cases, when we bring video into the network, especially for the branch offices with the weak wide area network connections, we've seen a lot of link administrators actually disabling multi-view. Because multi-view will deliver as a simulcast every video stream back to the device. So you can fire up, when I bring up to 5 video streams to remote end, could fire up possibly up to 2 meg bandwidth, just video coming to one user. If I've got 20 users in that site, receiving those 2 meg of video, it's a lot of bandwidth. So we have seen a lot of administrators going very, very granular on the user level and applying very specific policies to stopping them to have ability to stream a lot of video, and also stopping them ability to receive multiple streams, right? So network is a critical factor in this case, network readiness. If I'm ready to deliver this kind of capacity, in this kind of traffic into my network, great. If I'm not, I have to do a lot of engineering and conversation with customer. How can I bring this? Because every customer wants high definition. High definition, multiple streams, good experience. It comes to network readiness. So, as you can see, we support standards. It's up to vendors really to implement how much of the standards. And you really need to go back kind of to the user understanding how much of the, what kind of capabilities I want to deliver, what is an appetite and on the devices, and what kind of network capability I have in place. So from the interoperability modeling, again, we're trying to give you some points for discussion. This should at least initiate your conversation. If your partner initiate your conversation with customer, if your customer start thinking about these kind of elements in the video interoperability. So why we even talk about video interoperability? Because the world is really different. We have got a lot of video infrastructure existing, legacy infrastructure in place, I don't know, Tamberg legacy devices in place, Cisco telepresence devices in place. We've got Polycom, we've got Codium bridges, RMX bridges, we've got Skype going into place, we've got vendors like Icano, Pexip, we've got BlueJeans coming with the services, we've got WebEx streaming a lot of. Honestly, if I'm a customer and I'm looking at this picture, really I will be amazed. Whoa, how am I going to make sense out of this? And what is actually the best way for me to not just stick to someone, to actually make me working, because my user requirements are different. Sometimes I'm not in a position to completely shut one environment, go across. Sometimes we've seen migrations going from one another. It may take up to a year and a half. What does it mean? Over a year and a half, you're going to stop users using it because you can't get your technical environment up to speed? No, you have to make them working together. And we being an engineers, guys, architects, technicals, we love this kind of discussions. We dig into architecture. We get into whiteboards, architectures, protocols, traffic flows. We kind of get excited, but this is absolutely wrong. This is not the path to go. And based on my experience, I do a lot of work in Asia Pacific. We do a lot of work in Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, Japan. And it is absolutely consistent approach I've seen. We get into technology, but the answer is really don't get into technology. Start from the user modeling. Understand how much of the technology is used, how much actually users want to use. How do users want to use system? You literally have to go to the point where I create a conference. What is a conference for you? Or how am I going to be consuming? What kind of people I want to bring conference? Am I going to be sharing document? Am I going to be working on the document? What am I doing? You need to be very clear. Because if you are in this kind of game already, if you are in this kind of project, if you're thinking about integration, if you're thinking about architecture and you don't have your user modeling right, guess what? You're going to be coming back to the drawing boards to actually fix the user cases. User cases are really key, and this is my message to you. This is very important. Start with the user cases. Now, if you come back to customer and tell them, I want to see really user cases, not every customer is ready to put his hand up and say, yes, absolutely, here's a page, here's a 20 list, pick up. Not every customer is ready to do that. So start with assumptions. There is nothing wrong or right, but at least start thinking, make assumptions, start working on that. That's very important. So these are the interoperability options we have seen so far. If you've seen something else, please talk to us. We really want to find, but most of the cases I've dealt across Asia, it falls into one of the phase. It's either native integration, which is I'm connecting to the Skype network, or there is a direct registration of endpoint devices with Skype for Business Server, or is a third-party kind of integration. It's a gateway integration, MCU, and MCU is basically your virtual bridges, virtual meeting rooms, or cascading, which is a kind of new functionality that some of our vendors like Polycom is bringing in. I'm hearing that ICANN or Pexip, those guys are looking to bring that kind of functionality, and getting external services, right? Now, very interesting observation I want to share with you. This is video, and we do the video integration, we talk about video, we think about video, but in a lot of cases, the deal breaker, actually, the one that actually influences the architecture is not the video. I have found, based on my experience, sharing is the one actually sometimes that rules your architecture to go one direction or another direction. That's very important. So be careful when you look at the video. Always ask a question. Are you planning to share your application, desktop, PC, whatever, during the session? Who needs to be sharing? And what kind of sharing do you want to do? Do you want to present? Do you want to work? Do you want to sit on a beach with a laptop, present to everyone who's sitting in the boardroom? Ask the question and be very, very specific. Go deep down to the levels of how do you initiate, what you do, and how you bring the files into that. It's very, very important. So this is something new. We haven't delivered this message yet. I'm probably going to be killed for this URL because I'm bringing to the public. We have introduced in a Skype for Business Server new video-based screen sharing capability. It hasn't been documented on a TechNet yet. Jeff is only the one that actually posted the blog. Guys, it's going to be available. So slide's going to be available after session. You can download it. So if you have a Skype for Business Ladies client, and if you do point-to-point sharing, if you go through the client logs, if you are in a world of traces and checking invites or all the logs, you will find that video-based screen sharing is actually used as a protocol instead of RDP. So that's the VBSS is going to be enforced for all the point-to-point sharing, not RDP. The moment you actually said, I don't just want to share my desktop, I want to share application and give you control, then the VBSS sharing session will be teared down and RDP will be brought back, and then through the RDP you will be able to control. It's only point-to-point. When the clients go to the conference server, or where is the 3 people, or we can't talk to each other, we are on absolutely non-routable network, we have to actually go to the app sharing services on the server. In that case, RDP always going to be the protocol. So be aware of this. We spoke with the product marketing guys. They're going to put some content on the TechNet. But don't be surprised. This is something is happening already today if you're using the latest client, Skype for Business client. So native interop with the Skype network. If you've been following Skype consumer network integration, you know we had a version 1, which was voice only. You had to integrate with Office 365, and always presence will be always through the Office 365 connection to Skype network, and you will have voice calls going through Office 365. What we have done, and we've been delaying bringing video, the main delay was related to the fact is we had to update the Skype consumer client. So we have updated Skype consumer client, and Skype consumer client, latest one, now supports H.264 codec, SVC, as a default video codec. It also supports iStun turn. That means that client actually now can understand and can talk to Edge and can actually reserve ports for communications. That means if you are on, as we call it, version 2 of integration for Skype for Skype Consumer and Skype for Business, you can get native Skype clients actually talk to your Skype for Business clients. If you have a routable network, they will go directly. If the networks are non-routable, they will definitely inject the Edge in the middle, and Edge will proxy basically the traffic, and it is all thanks to the iStun turn capability, right? That's one of the video interop, going back to the Skype network. What's not available, you cannot bring the Skype client into your Skype for Business conference call. You can. So basically, it's always point-to-point, and it always gives you capability to do voice and video. So no content sharing is available, no joining conference calls. Direct registration. I'm probably going to be now a little bit more specific. Again, you can think about this as a framework, and I'll give you a little bit specifics. Direct registration, we're referring to the point that the vendor have taken all Microsoft stock, all supported our TLS, registration, our codecs, all elements, and actually integrated. Polycom probably is the only one that does. So if you have got HDX cameras, for example, you're running the latest software, you've got a license, you can get basically them registered to Skype for Business server, and those devices can be treated as another clients, as a contacts. You can call them, they can call you. You can drag them into the conference call because they parse the URLs and they understand C3P protocol, which is a conferencing protocol. There is a bit of limitation with some modalities. If I'm sharing my desktop, because they still don't understand RDP, they won't be able to receive RDP. But if they do the video streaming of, if I plug my PC at the back of the camera TV and start basically video stream my desktop, the Skype for Business endpoints will receive that shared content as a video stream coming from registered device, right? We have seen most of the cases, it's related to Polycom endpoints that can register directly. In some, we've seen a lot of cases where actually customers integrate them. They bring them, if you are really up to speed, if the software is there, if you've got all the licenses, it makes sense to bring them together. Again, you really need to weigh pros and cons for both of the solutions. Is it worth it? External gateway. So in some cases where you cannot register, you've got your VTC will be always registering to some kind of gateway. Polycom could be RMX bridge where the devices will register. In the Cisco world, you will have probably VCS endpoint servers that actually you will register to. And you can build a direct kind of SIP trunks, as we call them, between the gateway and Skype for Business. And in this case, the VTC can call two link and Skype endpoints. Of course, in case of the Polycom, they will come directly because they support a codec. In case of the Cisco, they will go through Advanced Media Gateway or whoever is transcoding, because remember, in the Cisco world, they will be H.264 AVC, they have to transcode to SVC to bring bridge to the Skype for Business world, and our endpoints can actually, from Skype for Business world, can talk. It's either direct streams to the Polycom or through their Advanced Media Gateway or whatever is transcoding on their endpoint back to them. What you're really missing in this case, the conferencing. That purple line says, in this case, you have a conferencing instance created on the Skype for Business server, and because the video gateways in most of the cases, I would say, they do not support C3P, the conferencing protocol. They don't understand what to do with the conferencing. So you need to understand, what am I getting? calling in. I can call them, they can call me, but I'm missing conferencing support, I'm missing content support. Now, what will happen when we start extending video-based screen sharing, which is extension of H.264, I believe, protocol? Let's see when we actually take it and further bring, possibly when endpoints will start support that, maybe we'll have a common ground. But as of today, content sharing will not be available, right? Picture gets a little bit more complicated and more interesting when now you have a third-party MCU in the video world, and when you have got Skype for Business. So most of the cases you will see the VTC devices registering to third-party MCUs. You will see Skype for Business devices registering to Skype for Business world. So this is, I would say, probably the most complex case. To the fact is, now you have two environments that actually can create meeting and can host meetings. So what you really need to do, you need to realize take kind of step back, take your use cases and realize how much of this is going to be used. Will my conferences going to be mostly held on a Skype for Business server, and how can I address availability of those conferences back to the VTC environment? Or will my conferences be based on an MCU, third-party MCUs? We have the virtual meeting rooms, let's say, sitting on RMX bridges. How can I get my clients actually connect to them? That's what you need to go. Point-to-point calling, I think even in this case, when you have MCU, they're going to be point-to-point calling, still will kind of go to the gateway in similar fashion for point-to-point calls. But then the conferences become kind of a key playing element that will influence your decision on the architecture. So let's say you created a conference on the Skype for Business server. And this is where you really need to go and ask customer the question. Your ordinary user, where do they create conference? And we have seen people giving them a choices, the plugins for video endpoint create, or plugins for link in Outlook to give them. Users are really confused. Don't confuse users. Give them one choice. Of course, I want you guys use link environment, but you really kind of need to step back and understand how the system is used, right? So in case if you gave them and decided my desktop conferencing is desktop client is link, and that's my strategy to have link as my desktop solution for conferencing, you need to think of my conference lives on a link world, my Skype for Business clients all will join world, how my VTC is going to join, right? The VTC, then you need to go to the point and understand if it's a Polycom, great, they actually support C3P protocol. They will be able to join the conference, which means they either come directly or they can come through their bridge. But in case of a Cisco, they cannot join. Even if you have built a Cisco environment, you cannot bring those VTCs from Cisco world in this shape into the video conference that's actually hosted on the Skype for Business. So there is a minus. So you need to understand that minus, what does it mean to customer? What is an impact of having that minus in my environment? How much of the functionality I'm going to use? This is not a question of good technology or bad. It's actually the question of how much I will hit performance of my users. Can they operate? Are they happy to give up that functionality? So in case if the conference is hosted on a third-party MCU, we are good in most of the cases. So if you're running a Cisco environment with their virtual rooms, or if you're running a Polycom environment with the Polycom virtual meeting rooms, devices definitely VTCs registered in a video environment, and we from the Skype for Business environment, we can actually call them. We call into the virtual rooms because signaling is in place. We are actually can interoperate, we can integrate, and the media stack is in place. With Polycom, we go natively. With Cisco world, again, we talk to their advanced media gateways or whatever platform they choose to use, and they actually transcode the session. They bring them into their conference. And again, you need to think about how sharing is going to work, because sharing is not going to be working in case of Polycom in this pure deployment. This is kind of native vanilla deployment. Sharing won't work with Polycom, sharing won't work with Cisco. They do not support, even with any of these boxes, the RDP protocol, right? Again, this is kind of, that's the state of technology. let's step back and understand what is going to be impact of me losing functionality for the users. Will they be happy? Will they not be happy? If they lose function, will they be less functional, etc., etc. This is where having a use case models for users become very, very critical. So your decision need to be done on technology. Decision done based on the models you have and functionality you drive for users. So what the Polycom actually did, they brought the concept of MCU cascading. And if you really would like to go into much deeper details actually how it works, we've got a lot of bright guys standing on the Polycom stand. Please go and have a chat with them. They can go very deep into details how those elements working. But in a nutshell, when you create a Skype for Business conference, right, the Polycom bridge, whenever the VTCs will try to join that conference, Polycom bridge basically will take the conference and kind of virtually bring it, extend it across from Skype for Business world back to the Polycom environment. And in this case, you have all the video going, you practically have all modalities going, because actually they've built full support even for desktop sharing, right? So you can have this functionality, but it requires a lot of infrastructure from the Polycom end. You need a real presence. There's a lot of stuff you need to deploy to make it working. But I believe the RMX bridges, not with a massive investment, actually will support doing the cascading functionality, extending this across, right? Let me see what's the next one. Yes, great. So as you can see, we are really, when we're talking about this video integration, we kind of have, this is real world. Like we have three vendors. We've got Microsoft, we've got Polycom, we've got Cisco, and we've got this kind of a the matrix of what's supported in which case, and when you get in one direction, you really have pluses and minuses, in which there's no kind of good, better, or best way of integrating. It's really it's mapping to your user model. So what we've seen a lot of gaps coming between the vendors, and we have seen some of the players like Icano, Pexi, BlueJeans, coming in and filling in those gaps for us and delivering more enhanced functionality, right? So you can integrate those guys into the environment. So these guys can go, I think the BlueJeans will go only as a cloud service. Icano and Pixip can go either on-premise deployment or they can go as a cloud service too. I think I've seen the Icano service, so please go to the stand and have a chat with the guys. They can give you a little bit more details actually what's going to be the best integration option for you. But the whole idea is they actually can sit and similar way to this cascading, they kind of can, I believe, again, I'll let Icano guys to confirm it, but I believe they're bringing the functionalities similar to cascading, actually, when they can let you join the Icano bridges and they will try to extend that link functionality back to them, and they will support, because as of 1 month ago, the only way to fully integrate VTCs, vanilla VTCs with the Skype for Business and support desktop sharing was actually only through those vendors. Actually, without any other way, it wouldn't be simply impossible to integrate them, right? So please have a chat with them. And also, those vendors will give you Office 365 integration. Again, depends what is the Office 365. When people say, I want to integrate, be very, very specific. Don't just throw the word integration. Be very specific. What exactly you mean anti-integration? How deep you want to go, how much of the services you want to integrate, what kind of functionality I want to drive, what kind of user behavior I want to drive, right? That's very, very important. And the only bad probably news I have, we can't integrate to WebEx. So if you are really WebEx user, and look, I haven't seen anyone so far taking WebEx and bringing into another world. I think WebEx is a kind of stays as a standalone service, and look, at least I can say from the Microsoft perspective, we do not directly integrate, and none of those guys that Polycom, or I believe even if we integrate with Cisco, I actually don't see the way actually we can get Skype for Business clients going into the WebEx world. It's a pretty kind of standalone world. So you really need to think, again, this is not a question of good or bad. It is really a question of if I choose a certain architecture, there's going to be always pros and cons. How much is that impact to my productivity? How much is that impact to my user operation? That's basically the question you need to understand. So user kind of profiling, user working is really key in this world. So let's, one of the parts that we have introduced, the new server role, it was a video interoperability server, and I've noticed, based on my discussions, we're kind of making a lot of assumptions. We think what the server is, but we thought, look, we'll run through this, the slides, will give you an idea what the server is in reality, and make sure you really clearly understand what server capability are, right? That's very, very important. So it acts as an intermediary, basically, service between Cisco world and Microsoft world. That's what it is as of today. Video interoperability server doesn't support anything else other than Cisco Unified Communications Manager. So it can support peer-to-peer calls, and it can support VTC devices on the Cisco endpoints dialing into Skype for Business conference. And it supports peer-to-peer calls, VTC devices dialing to Skype for Business calls. Now, it's probably easier to say what it doesn't do rather than going and telling you what exactly it does. So it does not share or pushes the presence information. It doesn't support the content sharing. It doesn't support you to dragging, like you can go into the federated contacts. And it doesn't use external VTCs in case if VTC by some way connection. It has to be always kind of a published topology. It needs to be inside your network, right? That's what the VTC does. So it does not bring and it doesn't support PSTN dialing in any form or shape as a version 1. Again, it's a version 1. It's a first cut of the server that has been introduced. It has very specific functionality. It literally does H.264 AVC to H.264 SVC codec, basically transcoding. It does not support RTV. It needs to deliver you the message. If I have a legacy clients like to Link 2010 or OCS, they can't talk to Cisco VTC. We won't transcode. And it's very interesting that CCCP, that's our conferencing protocol, it doesn't support CCCP. You will say, well, but I can dial. Because the way it is supports, it actually let the VTC dial into the conference. It doesn't join, so you can't just grab VTC and bring into conference. No, but actually the Cisco VTC dial into the conference, right? Click. Yeah, so it just have a media stack and signaling stack. That's all, nothing much. Again, it is a first release. We're working on it. We're trying to bring, as they call it, direct registration and SIP trunk registration. Right now, it supports SIP trunk registration. We're working on the direct registration model. A lot of actually, we have a roadmap on this. We're trying to bring it up, right? But as of today, that's exactly what it will do. So what actually it works, it enhances kind of the video gateway integration model. So again, I've tried to put you this picture in a context where how the VTC, VIS, will fit one of the models actually we're giving you can work with. So your video gateway will integrate with your VIS. It will terminate your signaling, and Cisco VTC actually will directly send us media to the VIS server because VIS will recognize the H.264 AVC codec, and it simply will transcode to the SVC with a specific frame rate or specific resolution it needs to do. We actually test and we define which endpoints are. It's not that Cisco will come and say, I'm going to bring more endpoints. No, we very explicitly testing the video gateway model, and we, from our end, very explicitly specifying which end devices actually which end devices we are supporting from the VTC endpoint, from the VIS endpoint, right? It's done by Microsoft. So if you have anything other than those devices, well, we won't be able to work. So, and if you have them, then VIS is not the right solution for you. You need to kind of think some other interoperability model. What exactly done? As I've mentioned, we support SIP trunk registration model, where the VTC devices, they register with the call manager. I keep calling it call manager, Unified Communications Manager. And in case of a traffic, if they are doing point-to-point calls, but remember point-to-point as the Cisco VTC will call Skype for Business, that's the direction. The signaling will go through the call manager back to Skype for Business server, and the media will fly between VTC, VIS, transcode back to endpoint. We will not support Skype for Business endpoints dialing into VTC. Or VTCs can dial into the conference. Basically, VIS will switch them to conferencing auto-attendant. Auto-attendant will ask them which conference they want to join. They pinch the number, and actually then will switch them to the AV MCU. What actually is also supported, if someone on a VTC will plug a laptop, will start sharing, because on the Cisco VTC, they actually, the sharing it comes is the desktop streaming. Keep me honest, guys. It's a desktop streaming of the video. You can stream from the VTC video back to the conference. And this is probably one of the reasons why people choose to go to VTC architecture today, because there's no kind of desktop sharing. If I start sharing my desktop inside Skype for Business conference, that's desktop sharing is not going to come. But in the cases where there is a requirement for people to share content on a Cisco VTCs and bring content to Skype for Business meeting, that's the solution. You can do point-to-point call, go to the gateway integration. Remember, we're speaking the Cisco VTCs via VCS can talk to Skype for Business endpoints. I can stream, again, it's a desktop video streaming to endpoint. But in that case, you cannot come to conference. So in order to stream desktop and connect VTCs to conference, you need to go to the VIS server. That's the only choice as of today. Click. So we will support also joining to the conferences on Link Server 2013. If you have got 2010, we don't support. So if you have a 2013 conferences, again, as you can understand, you need to be in a coexistence mode between Skype for Business Server 2013. Signaling goes your next hop from VIS, always Skype for Business Server, but then media will be switched, SVC will be switched back to Link 2013 server, right? And the interesting point being raised by a lot of our customers, what if I have 2010 clients on my network? I'm very common case, I've got Windows XP and I've got Skype for Business server. What kind of clients we support? 2010. You can't get 2013 client working on XP. I'm not even talking about Skype for Business. So if you are in the case of having a Skype for Business server with a lot of XP desktops, you have to end up having a 2010 client. So let's have a look at the case. You've got Skype for Business front-end server hosting the conference. Basically, mobile, Skype for Business on the mobile will join the conference. Skype for Business client will join the conference. And the VTC will join the conference. Again, signaling through main channel. VTC will establish a video stream as a H.264 AVC back to the VIS server. VIS server will transcode that session to SVC, will send to the Skype for Business conferencing server, and conferencing server will push down the stream. And let's say the Skype for Business client is the one who is the active speaker, right? So what will happen the moment when you have got 2010 client joining a meeting? Is a bit of change will happen. First of all, the conferencing server on the Skype for Business server will recognize that is a client who does not support H.264. I have to request all my endpoints to start coding in RTV. Skype for Business laptop client, great. The conferencing server will tell client, give me additional RTV stream, and let's assume you've got unlimited bandwidth in the network. It will actually start streaming the second stream as an RTV. 2010 client doesn't support Brady Bunch, and Skype for Business server will actually send one RTV video stream back to the 2010 client. On the mobile, because it will recognize there is RTV client, because we don't want mobile client to start sending 2 streams and killing a processor, right? So the mobile client now immediately will switch, as you've seen in this case, the mobile client active codec was H.264 SVC. By the introduction of 2010 client into the conference, mobile client will switch the codec from H.264 SVC to be RTV. So RTV is going to be the main codec that actually comes to the conference. And guess what's going to happen? The Cisco VTC going to send H.264 AVC stream to the VIS server. VIS server going to transcode it to SVC. SVC will be streamed to the conferencing server. Conferencing server will give down back to the Skype for Business client and to mobile. But VTC client is not going to receive the video image of 2010 client. Because if VTC client only receive the active speaker, that's what basically the Skype for Business server will receive and will send to the VTC client. And in case if Link 2010 client is going to be the loudest and active speaker in the room, VTC server is not going to receive. So be aware of this trap. So that's kind of a limitation of having Link 2010 client in your environment, and Windows XP shouldn't be there anyway. So all this information I've mentioned, it's basically recorded on MSDN. MSDN should be your startup page on your browser, whatever browser you use. We have all documented, all extensions, supportability, codecs, all information is sitting on MSDN. And for takeaways, if you ask me what 2 things I really want you guys to take away from the session, right? I think the first thing I would really want you to take away that we support standards. We do. We do support H.264 standard, right? That's the main message I want you guys to remember. And another one I want you guys to take away is the user profiles and consumption models profiling is the key element and should be the starting point on any interoperability you do with Skype for Business, with video interoping to any of the environment. These are the 2 key elements I want you guys to take away. And on this point, thank you very much, and I'll open up for questions. Thank you. Now, do we have microphones? No? Okay, you're going to be shouting, guys. Any questions? Yes?
Is there any sizing guidelines for the VIS server, and is it supported to be virtualized?
The question is, do we have a sizing guidelines for VIS server? It can be virtualized. It can be virtualized. The sizing guidelines are published on a TechNet. I think you need to going back and understand what's going to be the consumption, and you need to take traditional method of it's virtualized, it's less capacity, it's a hardware, it's a more capacity. There is no right or wrong answers. It depends how many sessions you want to run. It's on the TechNet, should be up to date. Okay, Ross.
What's on the roadmap for integration with web applications, particularly standards like WebRTC?
Great question. You got one of these. So I'm going to try it. So the question was, what is on a roadmap integration with the standards-based interoperability, especially WebRTC? What Microsoft has committed that, first of all, we support web applications through our UC Web API. We support it on the server. And we have stated that, first of all, we are part of the WebRTC consortium, right? Whatever definition is going to be agreed and ratified as a standard, we will support natively, and we will implement into the browser. Now, if you're following the Edge browser, we're already supporting those, and whatever is going to be agreed, because it's still kind of debates going, and it's not ratified yet, but we stated whatever is ratified as a standard, we will support natively out of the UC Web API. Will it be online platform, or would it be server platform? We're ready to do it. And we're actually contributing to WebRTC Consortium in the form we gave the codecs, the Silk codec, we gave support for iStunter and all that capability. Thank you, good question. Yes?
How about with the integration of with the iOS devices like with FaceTime and those integrating back with Skype for Business?
The question is, what is an integration of applications like FaceTime, WhatsApp, Viber, this kind of stuff? Yeah. There's not on the roadmap yet. What we want to hear from you, if you've got a customer, let us know. If you've got a request, because the way actually we work, we take a request, we kind of aggregate the sizing based on the markets, and we then feed it back to the product group, to the engineering group, and there is enough demand, we can make enough noise to actually create as a function. As a matter of example, the call pickup groups in a link server, we have actually, I've personally done the work, we aggregated across Asia. We basically aggregated that, not having call pickup groups in Skype for Business in Link 2013 server. Impact was around 350,000 seats were affected by this function. We made enough noise and future came in 6 months later as cumulative updates. So give us a feedback. We have direct access to engineering guys. We'll build a case, we'll make it happening. Thank you. Yes?
Do you have a user profiling tool or a checklist so we don't miss anything when we're gathering all the details?
Very good. I'm going to try to troll. Let's see if how successful I am. Sorry, guys. Excellent, thanks. It's a good question. Do we have a user profiling tool? Yes, we do. Not the tool. Actually, first of all, we have published on the TechNet, and this information been available since Link 2010, the common user, we call it user models. User models. Actually, when let's say we're stating Link server supports 6,000 users per server. How do you think we actually come up with that 6,000 number? We actually did a lot of research on organizations, and we actually asked a lot of people how the system is consumed. So we come up with some values that we said most of the organizations have this profile of user being so many users out of, let's say, 5,000 users. So many percentage been in the conference, so much percentage value going to be in the IM sessions, video, etc., etc. We have that profile, and we actually, if you're reading carefully TechNet, we say that 6,600 users per front-end server, it's valid as long as you stick within the boundaries of that profile. If you're really too far away from the boundaries, you're going to impacting a server. So as a starting point, it's called user modeling. It's Skype for Business documentation, Link 2013. It's there. That's number one. Number two, if you talk to Microsoft Fast Track guys, they actually have a lot of documentation where it's a kind of a service that our partners used to do. We call this BVA, Business Value Assessment Tool. It actually has all information. You don't just come up. You have to go and talk to the users, to the directors, to the executives, collect a lot of information and understand how they work. There's multiple sources. Fast Track, that online information modeling, and maybe some BVA tool. Have a look at that. Thank you. Good question. Yes?
What's the frame rate when you do desktop sharing? Is it different to if you're just doing pure video?
You see, the desktop sharing, first of all, we report the desktop sharing from 2013. We started reporting the framing of the desktop sharing, right? And as you can see, there's so many factors affects that frame rate. How much of the screen you share? Do you screen application? Do you share the whole screen? How much of the bandwidth you have? Do you do peer-to-peer? Because I can desktop share and send the traffic peer-to-peer, or if it's too bad, there's no good connection, we actually can go to application sharing service that's run off the front-end server. It really depends what is your path, there is no definition of specific default frame. It's whatever clients negotiate. But a good point would be to go back to your monitoring reports, pull up some statistics, historical statistics of what is the stats of the desktop sharing, and see what's happening in your environment.
So you could possibly stream, say somebody's wanting to show a video that's an AVI or an MP4 on their desktop and show it to the other person.
I doubt the AV. Well, oops. I doubt you will be able successfully to do the AVI through the desktop sharing.
The best way to do that would be to put the video into a PowerPoint and then upload the PowerPoint to a meeting.
Yeah, there are other ways of doing. And if people trying to do, I've seen people trying to play YouTube videos through desktop sharing. It's an absolutely awful experience. You don't want to do that. Yes?
With using SBC codec for remote desktop sharing in the latest updates, are we going to see the ability to stream desktop sharing to remote VTC using SBC?
Are we able to see? Not yet.
Yeah, are you expecting that at a new CU in the near future?
I have to say yes. I have to say yes, eventually will come. Look, I think that video-based sharing, we realized it's actually the VBSS, it's, although the bandwidth-wise is not as actually that different to the RDP, but we're finding that video-based sharing, it's performing much better than RDP. We're finding it's much easier to start. It's a better performance. The video quality is much better. That's what we're finding. I think it's a very early days. I would say let's follow and see what is the evolution of VBSS coming to that. Guys, ask me tough questions. I still have those. Yes?
All your examples show pretty much on-prem stuff.
Yeah.
Does this work with hybrid?
No, it's everything I'm showing on-prem, it is on-prem. If you have a lot of online deployments and you would like to bring those things into on-prem, integrate your on-prem video environment with online, you have to go into the on-prem infrastructure. It's a good question, actually. I don't know if I'm going to throw there, but let's come here. Yes, Ben.
I noticed of this 2016 ships with Skype for Business 2016, are there any differences between the 2015 and the 2016 version? And do you have any updates on the Mac OS client as well?
You shouldn't ask that question. Okay. I gave him yesterday prize. Okay, let's go back. So 2016 client, as you know, the story is when we launched Skype for Business client, we said, okay, there was a path of having a 2013 client, applied Office update. We gave you Skype for Business 2015 client, and you could operate in either Skype for Business mode or Link 2010 mode. That's one path of running. And this was really kind of a testing of what people really, it's a change in an interface, a change in the platform. It's kind of to keep administrators in control how much I can give to users. Once you launch in 2016, it's a pure Skype for Business client, and it does not support that 2013 skin. This is only Skype for Business skin. You can't go. That's the major difference between them. VBSS, that's sharing available in both, right? The Mac client is a good question because, keep me honest, slap me if I'm talking too much. We're completely rewriting it, and soon we're going to launch the Mac client. It's going to be completely brand new, fresh Mac client coming in as a Skype for Business. It's not upgrade, and it's not update. When? I can't tell you. If I tell you, they'll kill me. No, it's in the progress. Any more questions? Yes?
It's a good way of recording the sessions and providing it to the users, to all the participants.
To which one?
All of them. So they're all participating, and I want to record it and then provide it to them.
You can do via multiple way. You can record conferences from OCS or live meeting days. You can record a conference, publish, and people get it in. OCS 2010, 2013 Skype for Business, you can do that. What actually we will record, we don't update the file, but we'll record whatever is coming. We could also record sharing, whatever you share, all the stuff. We will not record uploaded files, presented files. We can record. You can do that out of Skype for Business conference itself. That's supported. I'm not sure if it's supported online. I think that's supported mostly on on-premise server. Or you can go to third-party solutions, Geomount, Jesus, now there's a lot of 3 solutions basically: Mnemonics, Geomount, and which one? Which one? Yeah, well, that's the one, yeah. So you can go some of the partners and they give you, it's more compliance-based recording. So it's additional cost for you to build on top of a server. Yeah. Yes?
What was the reasoning behind changing the content protocol or going to change the content protocol?
You see, the RDP, I probably need to get an engineering guy to respond to that. This is kind of my personal approach to that. The RDP is a pretty kind of proprietary protocol, and we're seeing that people coming into a variety of the devices and operating systems, they're coming from completely different networks, right? The whole power of Skype really for business is you will come from kind of device, any operating system, you don't know. So you really need to deliver consistent experience, no matter which client you come, no matter where you're coming from. We're seeing RDPs really, in some cases, we're laggy, and plus, again, we want to follow the standards. So all this, think about this, WebRTC is kind of also trying to bring that sharing move. So I haven't seen what actually is going to be the sharing protocol for WebRTC, but once it's ratified, the WebRTC going to define video, voice, and sharing consistent across the platform. So we had to do change anyway. It's a good question. Send me email, I'll send to the project engineering guys. Now, we didn't create another protocol. It's actually, it's a substack of H.264, I believe. Video-based screen sharing, I think it's been done by Polycom. It's been, I believe it is part of the substack of H.264 protocol. That's where we want to head. We don't want to bring another. I mean, we can do that, BFCP, but who else is doing? Okay, our friends from Cisco are doing. Anyone else? Polycom is not doing that. That's a good feedback. I'll send it to engineering guys. I will. Any more questions? Guys, I still have one.
You want a hard one on VDI. How does it work with VDI?
Great. How you work with VDI? I've got very good answer for you, and you know it. James, don't bring questions. If you want a VDI, we do not support link plugin. I think if you really have a big VDI environment, you really need to be talking to the Citrix about their solution for that. Okay, I'll give.
Third-party integration onto the, the Arcana or something like that. How do they actually protect the internal VI servers? Because assuming those third-party services will be running on the internet on the cloud somewhere, no?
Can you say it again? How?
So if you are integrating into a third-party video provider like that, the Arcana,
Yeah.
Cloud-based, and is there any mechanism in place on the VI server to protect your VI server?
No, first of all, we don't do VIS when we talk to Icano. We do that, I believe, as a trusted application on our end. That's one. And number two, I believe they, again, you'll be better to respond to that, but let's take this offline, but they partition you, you have got very specific environment when you come. Okay, any more questions? All right, thank you very much, guys.